Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Music, Money, and Life podcast. As always, this podcast is brought to you by howtolicenseyourmusic.com. That's my website, and if you go there, you'll learn all about music licensing, how to license your music in television shows, films, video games. So if you write music of any sort, if you're a musician and you want to learn how to license your music, go to howtolicenseyourmusic.com. You can go there and sign up for a free ebook and free video all about music licensing. And today I have a special guest. I have a musician from Montreal, Canada, another Canadian musician, by the name of Alexy. And Alexy, I don't even know, do you just go by Alexy, or what's your last name?
Yeah, I usually just go by Alexy because my last name is French, so it's Guerre. It's kind of hard to say.
Okay, gotcha. So it's easier just to go by Alexy. You're kind of like Prince or Cher. That's cool. So Alexy, like I said, is a musician from Montreal, and Alexy actually participated in one of my online music licensing courses, the 90-day music licensing challenge, and had one. Or how many placements did you actually get as a result of going through that course?
Well, there's 3 different shows, but the place in terms of episodes, there's like 6, I think, 6 or 7.
Okay, cool. Well, like I was saying before, Alexy, I don't want these podcasts to turn into a big sales pitch for my courses, but I thought it'd be cool to talk about your experience of going through the program and, more importantly, what's happened as a result and how the licensing placements came about and what you're, kind of what you're up to licensing wise. So can you kind of walk us through how what led to getting those placements?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that the key when it comes to licensing is really in the relationship that you develop with publishers, and you can't just send out a few submissions and then expect a placement to just come, and you have to follow up. You have to make sure that you're in contact with the people you're working with. So essentially, how I approached it, I signed up to the 90-day challenge because it seemed like a really good idea in terms of motivation. It would give me a set amount of things to do over the course of 3 months. And I have to say sometimes I fell behind a little bit and I had to catch up. But at the end of the day, I applied to maybe 60 different libraries and publishers, and probably got accepted to about 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And with a few of those, I built really solid relationships. And from there, actually, all of the placements that have come thus far have been from the same publisher with whom I'm in constant contact with now. So. Okay,
cool. Do you mind saying who the publisher is, or do you want to keep that?
Yeah, sure. It's they go by Imaginary Friends Publishing.
Okay, nice. With Beth Wiernick, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I interviewed her. It's been probably a year and a half or so. Probably a couple years now. But yeah, really friendly lady. Really cool.
Yeah, she's super nice.
Okay, cool. So you went through the program and you submitted your music to 60 or so places, and then sounds like you kind of narrowed it down to a few places that were interested, and have cultivated this relationship with Beth at Imaginary Friends.
Exactly. Yeah. We're in constant contact whenever there's opportunities that she thinks might fit my music, or even if there's something that has a deadline, she sometimes asks me to write for it. So it's great. It's really cool to be able to do that.
Nice. Did you have any placements prior to this, or were these your very first placements?
Those were the very first ones. I'm fairly new to the game, so. It was a big learning experience doing the 90-day challenge, of course, and learning about all the different aspects of it, all your stems, all your different alternate parts, and having your vocal only or your instrumental or your, vocal lower and all this kind of stuff that can be really useful. And also just, to kind of have a good basis in understanding how the business works, and in that sense, being able to approach publishers. But it was funny because when I signed with Beth, it was probably one of the more complicated ones. I had to fax documents back and forth, and fax machine would like cut off half of the document as it was sending. So I ended up, it took a while, but she was super, super helpful and understanding, and that in that way it developed a relationship, and so I was thrilled when I found out about the first placement, and it's kind of a domino effect. Once you have that door open, you kind of realize that it's not out of reach, and suddenly you kind of see a little bit more clearly.
Absolutely. I think, though, getting to that first placement can be really hard for a lot of songwriters. It seems like this insurmountable obstacle, especially if you've been pitching your music for a while and just nothing's happening. It can get really frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally relate. Like once you get that first placement and you realize it's possible, then you're that much more motivated to keep going and get the second and get the third and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said your first placement, was it on The Young and the Restless?
That one, the first one was on the Nickelodeon show Hollywood Heights. So
okay.
Like a teen drama.
And did you find out about your placement before it aired?
Yeah, it's so funny, right? You never know. You get an email out of nowhere saying, "Hey, you got a placement. Congratulations!" And it's like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wow, okay, that's awesome. And so it was just, it was maybe 4 or 5 months after I had made contact with her and communicated and all that, and then finally something fit, and it was really cool. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I was pretty lucky when I first signed with my first publisher. I mailed the paperwork off, and it was really quick. It was like 3 weeks, maybe. After I signed everything, I got an email. And my first placement was actually on The Young and the Restless. I know you said you had a song on there as well.
Yeah.
But I remember I was so excited that I knew when the show was going to air in advance. I had like a week or two, notice ahead of time. So I took the day off work, and I stayed home and taped it, and it was really exciting. Yeah. Did you watch it like when it aired?
Because we're in Canada, we don't have Nickelodeon. I don't have a TV at home, but I checked it out online afterwards.
Okay, so you were able to.
I was able to. Yeah.
Cool. Well, no, that's great, Alexy. Yeah, I think sometimes it's just a matter of getting started, and once you kind of see the possibility, then you can start to slowly build a career. So, what are you up to licensing wise now? Do you have anything sort of on the horizon?
Well, I'm finishing up a big project right now. So I've been working on a record for about 2.5 years, and actually the 3 songs that I put out as an EP kind of prior to the album, 2 of those songs have been placed so far.
Oh, nice.
One of which on more than one show. So it's really cool to know that once I have all the masters for the album, because it follows along the same kind of vein as the EP, but with a lot more songs and variety in terms of styles and sonics and all that. So I'm really stoked to get that out to all the publishers that I'm connected with, and hopefully, at this point I'm fairly confident that there will be more coming through once that happens. And even with the music that I have out now, the most recent placement was on Degrassi.
Yeah.
And one of the most humbling things about that was that a few weeks later I checked my YouTube account where I have videos of just literally like the album art, the EP artwork with the song uploaded, and there were people that had commented saying, "Degrassi brought me here."
Oh, nice!
What a beautiful song, and it was like, wow, okay, like it reached people from across the country and
sure,
people that I don't know. So that was really exciting as well.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and that's a really good point about licensing. It's obviously a great way to make extra money, but it's huge exposure too. And if you're on the right show now with Degrassi, do they obviously credit your song? Like people knew how to find you, right?
Yeah, they put my name at the end credit. It was this big like 2-episode thing, and and my song kind of came in at the denouement, the big finish, so I guess it had enough of an impact that a good amount of people sought it out and checked it out, so I was really happy about that.
That's awesome. How many extra views would you say you got as a result of Degrassi? Any idea?
Probably a good 700 views over like a 2-week period.
Nice.
Nice. So yeah, it was just, it was a song that had been fairly static and hadn't been moving all that much, and then there was a huge spike, kind of out of nowhere. Obviously not out of nowhere because the Degrassi placement.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really cool.
No, that's awesome. Now, in terms of performing and touring, how active are you as a live performer?
I'm performing a lot. I just actually I moved to Montreal. I'm originally from Ottawa, but I moved to Montreal a year ago, and because it's just so vibrant here, and so we've been gigging around the city and also around the province. We did a little tour recently in Quebec City and Saint Jérôme and all these kind of small towns, and I've also played in Toronto and Ottawa, and I've traveled quite a bit, but at this point there's a big transition happening. I moved here with my band, and as we all know, life takes its own turns sometimes, and so everyone's kind of, one of my friends who's a guitar player, he's moving out to Palau, which is like on the other side of the world for a year, and stuff like that. So the band's kind of disbanding a little bit, but at the same time, I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I play guitar, piano. I'm a drummer. I sing, obviously. So I'm working on a new live set right now with loops and Ableton Live, jumping from instrument to instrument. And so at this point, I'm really focused on just finishing the album. And then once that's ready to go, then I'll be pushing it, doing some radio tours, some CD release shows and stuff like that. And the goal is to eventually be touring the US and Europe, and being a performer who does a lot of different instrumentation. I almost want to just tour on my own, or with one other person, and just it's a little easier to sustain that way. I could sleep in my van and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, that's cool. I've actually just started this year doing solo shows, entirely by myself. Yeah. I've always been a singer-songwriter, but I've never been super comfortable as a vocalist. Like I'm definitely a much better guitar player than singer, but this year I've started doing solo shows where it's just me and a guitar. I have a loop pedal, and it's so like now that I feel comfortable doing it, I'm thinking, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? It's so much easier to sustain, and you get to keep all the money too, which is at the end of the day is pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So no, that's great, Alexy. It sounds like you're doing a lot of interesting things. I wanted to also touch on the magazine, your online music industry magazine. It's called Music Industry Pulse.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? What's that all about?
Yeah, so I started that with a few of my friends about 8 months ago, and the goal was to make something that kind of touched on a lot of different aspects of the music industry, and also sought out artists that were on the rise. And not necessarily well known in the international community, so we've had we've had quite a bit of success with getting in contact with really great artists, and also obviously we have some great articles about licensing, about recording, we actually partnered up with Tom Jackson, who's a live music. He calls himself a live performance producer. So essentially, what he does is he works with live bands, and he works to craft their live show to make it more interesting, to make it more interactive with the audience, and so it's really great. We're trying to. The goal is really to help other musicians who and aspiring songwriters and artists who want to learn and who want to improve. And want to make their mark in the music industry. And sometimes it's just really, it's difficult to see past your own limitations, depending on where you live or your social situation. But at the end of the day, I think now the music industry has changed quite a bit over the last 15 years, and we're at the point where if you're really driven and you have direction, and you really want it more than anything else, and you're willing to put the energy and time into it, there's almost nothing that you can't really do in terms of music. You can generate your own fans, you can distribute your music on your own, you can obviously do licensing and control your rights through that. And so we're trying to give people knowledge to further their careers and to help themselves. I'm really a big advocate of kind of passing the torch along and helping people out, and I'm a drum teacher. I love kids, and I love teaching, and so that's part of it as well. Just kind of imparting knowledge and helping each other out, because a lot of people have helped me through the years and still do, and I'm extremely thankful for that. So I kind of want to do my part as well.
Nice. And you got to let people know what that noise in the background is, just so just so they're not thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
That I was thinking.
I'm in a little basement studio right now, and we have kind of all the pipes from upstairs coming down, so it has an interesting atmosphere when we record. Sometimes there's some water sounds coming through the pipes,
which could be a cool sort of ambient effect if that's what you're going for.
Yeah, it's just a vibe. It's interesting.
That's cool. No, that's awesome. I totally agree with you that in terms of giving back, there's just something. It's just like a karmic effect, right? I've found that if you give to musicians or just people in general, things will come back to you. That's why I love running my website so much, is that, I'm not a rock star, obviously. I can't teach people how to do that, but I am a full-time musician, and, I can teach people how to license music and make money from that and push their career forward. Now, what is sort of your long-term goal with your music, Alexy? Do you have this huge ambition of, do you want to become a household name? Do you look at it as more of a day by day thing? What's your sort of long-term goal or goals?
It's of course, as a songwriter, as a musician, you want exposure, you want people to hear you, so if things took off and really reached across the world, that would be incredible. Now, of course, you have to be realistic, but at the same time, I live for music. So at the end of the day, my real goal is to live from music. Everything else is kind of the cherry on top. But yeah, if I can, I want to be touring, I want to be performing, writing not only for myself, but also with others. I love producing as well. I've worked with a few artists and produced their material, and so that's really interesting as well, because when you work on someone else's music, you kind of have an external perspective on it, and you're not attached to it as emotionally as you are with your own material. So you can have it's a totally different mindset, and I find it much easier to produce somebody else than myself. So I work with a producer for my own stuff, because I need that that external push and perspective. But yeah, my long-term goal would be to be touring the world and writing and recording, releasing records. So that's obviously the dream. But until then, or even if that doesn't happen, that's okay. I still have a lot of other things that I do, and I'm going to still keep performing and writing and recording, just because I love to do that. And I don't feel that I have the choice to do that. I almost need to.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you know. So whatever ends up coming my way, I'm just going to push it really hard and hope for the best. I'm still fairly young, and I'm starting out, so I'm happy with the results that I've been having so far, and of course, with the licensing, having a good start in that. I think that's one of the things that a lot of unfortunately, a lot of bands and artists kind of neglect, because it just seems like this unreachable thing. But then once you realize that, a good portion of the money in the industry is in licensing, it's like, well, okay, if I can subsidize the rest of my career, and by doing licensing and by having placements, and then it's reoccurring passive income, and that's ideal, that's incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And the musicians that I know that are, that are not necessarily household names, that are not famous, but are just working musicians that are carving out a living, and not just a living, but in a lot of cases a really respectable living, are really tapping into all of the possible revenue streams that you can tap into in 2013 as a musician. Yeah. So I see that as touring, licensing, downloads and CD sales, and streaming music.
Yeah.
And I think if you're doing all four of those things and you're really active, I think being a full-time musician who makes $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year is totally attainable. And for me, at the end of the day, I still, have a dream. I'd love to, like most musicians, of course, we all want to quote unquote make it. But in a way, like, I've traveled the world quite a bit, and I've seen, how a lot of the world lives. And in my mind, if you can make $50,000 a year doing something you love,
you have made it. Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, you've made it. If you don't realize that, and you're bitter because you're not, Bon Jovi, I think it's kind of silly. Not that it's silly to have that dream, because yeah, of course, it's, when you play music, when there's more people there, it's just more exciting, right? But I think it's really healthy to kind of keep things in perspective and realize that if you're doing something you love and you're supporting yourself, that's pretty freaking awesome, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree, and success is really just, it comes from the eye of the beholder, and you make your own success. You define what success means to you, and I think that you're right. You're absolutely right. If you're able to survive and not only just survive, but thrive and live happily, and securely doing music. You're in a very, very small percentage of musicians and artists out there, and that's really incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's really important to kind of keep that perspective. And I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I used to get really I've blogged about this in the past before. I went through a period where I got really frustrated because I just felt like I wasn't moving forward as fast as I thought I should have been. And so, I don't know, there was a period of a couple years there where I was just kind of bitter about the music business. And I think it's an easy sort of trap to fall into, because it is hard. You know, it's hard to kind of quote unquote make it in a really big way. But I think if you kind of take things on a day-by-day basis, writing music and licensing and you know, you can do those things and you can move forward. I mean, last night I played a show for probably, I don't know, 40 people, 50 people at the most. And it was like one of the best shows I've had in a long time. Felt awesome. And to me, I feel like I'm moving forward in my own way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's so, you know, I think as long as you have a plan, that you have some sort of direction, you know, and that you're not just kind of waiting for someone to come along and lift you up. You know, I don't think that really, you know, that maybe happens like once in a million, like the Bieber story, for example. But, you know, at the same time, like, you know, is that what you would be aspiring to do? You know, would you much rather be playing for fans and who appreciate you for who you are, and even intimate situations like 40, 50 people? I actually prefer that kind of thing because you can really connect with your audience. You can talk to them, you know, and it becomes just this community event, you know, and it's really touching, I find. So absolutely, you know, if you're working hard, if you take it day by day and just, you know, take 2-3 steps every single day, you know, and there's so many things that you could be doing. And that's part of the difficulty, I think, is that it's a little overwhelming at times, because you can't necessarily see the results right away, you know, most of the time. And it can take, you know, it can take years for a song that's been sitting, you know, in a library to actually fit with the right situation, you know, and then all of a sudden a song that you wrote 5 years ago will get placed or something like that, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about licensing. And that's why I always, my sort of take on licensing is it's a great way to make extra money with your music, but it should really be one piece of what you're doing, you know, unless you have a really good sort of connection and you're able to, I mean, there are people that can generate really good money through licensing, but because of just the way the industry works, I think it should be a part of what you're doing. Yeah. You know, you should be performing and selling music and doing all these other things as well, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Great. Well, listen, Alexy, this has been really good to have you on. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about, we can kind of wrap things up here.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, it's been a pleasure, you know, being in contact with you. Thanks again, you know, for the help, you know, on the licensing front. I learned a lot from your course, you know, so I definitely have to attribute, you know, part of the success to that. And it's great when people are willing and happy to share and help others. I think that's really, you know, if everyone's, you know, looking at it in terms of a community, of a musical community instead of a competition. Yeah. You know, I think that's much better, you know, because then everyone wins, everyone can succeed, you know, to different levels and be happy doing music, you know, because at the end of the day, that's why we do it, because we love music. And I think that should be the you know, the foundation of it all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point. I've actually been trying to come up with a way to kind of bring more of the musicians that are subscribers to my site together. So I'm thinking about maybe implementing a forum on my site in the near future where people can just kind of share their experiences and what they're up to, so we can all, you know, sort of learn from each other. Yeah,
that's a great idea, you know, and you know, it's funny, like I was part of Taxi for a couple years. And you know, I think that it's tough because, you know, you'll get some feedback, people saying, you know, oh, this song won't work for licensing, but then, you know, you get it licensed anyway. So it's like, and you have tons of success stories on places like Taxi and Music X-Ray and stuff like that. And I think that's great, but it really just comes down to people. I think the problem is when you're in front of your computer sending emails. It sometimes can come off as very cold until you realize that, hey, this is just another human being on the other side that I'm talking to, communicating with, who shares a passion in music, and all of a sudden, you can kind of tap into that, and I think that's really powerful as well. So yeah, a forum would be awesome. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that in the near future. It's one of those ideas I've had for quite a while, but I tend to get so busy with the things that I have going on that I just haven't gotten around to doing it. But I plan to do that soon, so I will keep everybody who's a subscriber to my site posted on that. So again, if you're interested in learning more about licensing your music, my website is howtolicenseyourmusic.com. And Alexy, what I'd like to do is let's play one of your songs. What's a good song to kind of end the podcast with?
Let's maybe Last Man on Earth.
Last Man on Earth. Okay, so we're going to close out with that. And your website, if people want to learn more about you, Alexy?
Yeah, my website is www.alexy, Alexy, it's kind of a weird name, alexymusic.com. So
alexymusic.com. So go check out Alexy and learn more about what he's up to. And so this is called Last Man on Earth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Last Man on Earth, yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Last Man on Earth. Alexy, thanks so much for talking to me.
My pleasure, Aaron. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.